I think I heard you say in another interview, we live in a fake world, which I fully agree with. But do you think now in this current age that audiences are craving authenticity or story?
Ooh, good question. Great question. Story or authenticity? I mean, ideally, both. And I think people are craving anything real because everything is fake. I don't mean fake news. I don't mean that well-worn phrase that the president uses. I mean literally Instagram, where everyone is face-tuning themselves and photoshopping themselves, and everyone is presenting this curated highlight reel of their life, which I am guilty of too, because I just want to put positivity out in the world. So of course I show me being in love, or me working on a film, or me doing a cool interview with Film Courage. So you are getting all the highlights, and that can be kind of exhausting for people. So I think there is a craving for people to see the warts and all reality of life. And I think I got to do that a bit in this film. And I think as well, it is a fictionalized story in this movie, so it is kind of artificial, and yet there's authenticity sprinkled through that. I'm really drawn to that as a form. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest and just out myself. I'm a professional wrestling fan. People are always gobsmacked. I've loved it since I was 5, and for the record, I realized it was a scripted show when I was 7, okay? And that was when I fell in love with it more, because I was like, oh, okay, so it's not an athletic contest, it's a show, it's performance art, it's a circus. Okay, I love that. And I use that as an example because that's the most obviously ersatz, artificial kind of storytelling there is, and yet there's authenticity within that fake framework. Right? It's no coincidence that The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is the biggest star in the world. How did that happen? He had this wrestling persona that he imbued with his true personality. He invested his authentic self in this silly wrestling character, and it caught fire. And now he's the most profitable actor on earth for a reason, because there's authenticity in that fake framework, if you get what I mean. Sure. And that's kind of like Use Me. Maybe it's a long bow to compare it to wrestling, but we're upfront about the artificiality in Use Me. We're upfront that this is a movie. This has a scripted narrative. But within that, there is truth. Within that, there is authenticity. And I have to tell you, this is a much more honest movie than it would have been if I made a pure documentary. Much more honest. I could go so much deeper into this world. I could go so much deeper into these themes of addiction, sexual addiction, technological addiction. Because I fictionalized it, it was the lie that let me tell the truth. And that's why I did it.
Oh, that's great. I like that. By the way, did you see Fighting with My Family?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's excellent.
I would love to.
And that was based off a documentary, I think. Yeah. And so, but within that, there's the character of Paige, but then there's like this story that it was about her family and different things that she's gone through. And so, wrestling is interesting. It's very, because everybody's made up, and whether they've been tanning or, right. And their hair's teased and stuff. And there's these supposed fights and everything, these long-standing animosities.
Right.
So it's easy to fall into that. But yes, we want to be. It's just the same thing. You see these women in the magazines or on whatever. You want to think that there's a fantasy, a story behind it. You don't want to know some of the real things that they've gone through.
That's right.
That's why you're going there, is to escape reality.
Absolutely. But it's interesting on the wrestling thing, like wrestling is such a meta thing because people just get turned off because they see, yes, the good guy versus bad guy storyline. But I can see beyond that artifice, and I'm actually watching the performers. It's just like when you go to a movie, right? And you're like, okay, it's Meryl Streep playing this character. Like, you're emotionally connected to the actor, not just the character. It's the same with wrestling. It's real people who you're emotionally connected to portraying these characters. And sometimes the story can be very thin. I mean, let's be honest. But you're drawn to that spark and that authenticity. And it's why we get obsessed with actors. It's why we get obsessed with athletes. We want that authenticity. We want that emotional connection. So it's all kind of meta. It's all kind of meta, isn't it? It's always different levels, right? It's like when you're watching a movie, it's a movie, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how wrestling's any different.
Sure, yeah. We want to escape ourselves,
right,
and watch somebody else's dilemmas.
Exactly. Yeah. And put yourself in their shoes. Yeah.